Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be my Q4 update for my personal crypto goals, right? So this is going to talk about my mining strategy, portfolio strategies, what I'm doing, what I'm looking at, am I still accumulating, am I buying, am I selling, what's working, what's not working. So going to kind of give an overall update as to what I'm doing, what I'm looking at, and how things have been going, right? So again, this is more of a personal video for me just to reference back, but just to also give you some strategies, right? Things to look at, things to consider when you're accumulating during this bear market, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned and let's get to it, right? So currently, things have been on a freaking tear. So if we look at the overall market, it has been insane, especially the altcoin market, right? BTC has been up, everything has been up, right? But it's been almost exaggerated with a lot of these alts. A lot of these alts doing like 2 to 3 X's in the matter of days, which is insane. Especially some of these bigger cap coins like kaspa, freaking insane. It was 5 cents a few days ago, literally 2 weeks ago, it was at 5 cents. It's currently at 14 cents, almost a freaking 3x in the matter of days, right? So as we go look at the 30-day here, we can see Ordi is at almost 600%. It's because of all this Ordinals hype. Thorchain Rune at almost 300%, Kaspa over 200%, AVAX 140%, Solana 130%. Insane, right? Illuvium, one that had been struggling for a while, just because the beta is about to come out, it's at 120%. IMX, another gaming related coin, 120%. It's been insane, and it's pretty much been all around. It's not just specific coins or just BTC and ETH. It's pretty much the whole damn market, right? It's just been insane, right? So it's been nice looking at profitability charts as we go and mine the ASIC. The top coins, of course, all the freaking kaspa miners, which were already making insane money, and now it just went up like to a mind-blowing number, right? So like this WindMiner K9, $300 freaking dollars a day, right? It's insane. The KS3, the 9.4, 276. Even the smaller of the kaspa miners, the KS1, almost $30 a day in factory form. Again, you can overclock this thing and it's going to get you about 35, 40 bucks a day for a miner that a few weeks ago was only $1,800, right? It's just mind-blowing, right? So things have been looking good as far as profitability. Even a lot of the coins that were barely break even, some of the BTC miners that were break even or making $1 profit are now making a good chunk. A lot of the altcoin miners, the L7 is back to almost $7 a day. The K7 is making 5, 6 bucks a day. And the list goes on and on, right? So there's quite a few that are nice and profitable now versus not too long ago. A lot of them were barely break even, right? Depending on your electric, some were only $1 or $2, some were barely break even, some were at a loss, even for some of these newer releases, right? So it has been nice to see that. Although if you're more in the camp where you want deals, this kind of ruined any kind of like Black Friday deals, right? You can pretty much rule that out. If you do see any deals, it's going to be for the ones that nobody kind of wants. And if anything, because even a lot of those pumped, right? If anything, it'll be the price from like 2 weeks ago, right? Because there has been significant increases in a lot of these miners, especially those kaspa ASICs. Those things freaking, number one, sold out. Number two, they like doubled in price, right? In some cases, not all of them, but the KS1, the KS2, it's been insane, right? So as we continue to look at the prices, Kaspa's the one that's been the craziest, right? Again, it's at 14 cents. A lot of good data points with this pump. So things I like to look at, I love seeing these kind of pumps, especially these sustained pumps, right? Because I love seeing how they do. Which ones are pumping the hardest? What narrative are they following? What's going on? Did it pump and immediately dump? Is it pumping and sustaining? Is it pumping and then that whole ecosystem's growing? These are the types of data points I want to see because those are the kinds of coins that I want to be into if I'm not in already, right? In a certain way, it's like kind of reestablishing certain coins that I did have faith in is just kind of like solidifying that, right? So like Solana is a big one for me. AVAX is a big one for me. Kaspa turned into my biggest holding. At one point, it was on like 2% of my portfolio, and it just essentially took over the damn portfolio, right? It is, I think something like almost 70% of my portfolio is just kaspa now, which is insane, right? So I like to look at those data points just to kind of see which ones are pumping, which ones are doing well, and to consolidate, right? That's been a big thing that I'm still kind of having trouble with is like kind of really narrowing down which coins. There's certain coins that I 100% have narrowed down, 100% have goals in mind, and that's it. I have other coins that I'm still iffy on, right? One that I did actually consolidate out of was ADA, out of Cardano. I did fully exit out just because the narrative they're going with isn't necessarily the vision I'm seeing or the coins that I'm the most bullish on, right? There's certain narratives now that are fairly clear to me, and that's kind of more where I'm going at. So I did exit out just because I did hit the point where I was at a slight profit and I was comfortable with just exiting out all the way, right? At this point, am I going to reallocate it now at this moment? No, I'm going to exit out, wait for potential dumps, and then go in at that moment, right? So those are the types of things I look for when these things happen. And then also to start looking at newer coins, right? I'm at the point where a lot of my bigger cap coins, I'm pretty much where I want to be at. Now I'm looking for the next coins, right? Look at the next few that I want to add and want to go in, right? So like these are the types of times where you can really see which ones pop. So like Celestia was a big one this time. It just came out not that long ago. It was at $2, currently at $7. Another one that pumped hard was Injective. That's another one I keep my eye on. And one that I've been eyeing all this year and I've been like fumbling big time with is freaking Render. I've literally been talking about this one in every goal update video saying, oh, I'm going to wait for this. And this is one that I freaking regret not jumping in at $1.50. Yes, it did go a little bit lower, went down to like $1.40, $1.35 or something. But I should have jumped in at $1.50 when I saw that price point, right? Especially just because I've mentioned it in the past also that every single time we've had any glimmer of a pump, this thing has pumped super hard, right? Even right now, it's at $3.35, right? If we look at the 30-day, it's 73% in 30 days, right? And this is one that's right up my alley, right? It's freaking with GPUs and such. It's on Solana, like it's super up my alley, and that's what kind of like annoys me a little bit more. But now I definitely know that if it hits that price point again, I will jump in aggressively, right? I did buy a little bit, but like $100 ain't gonna do much, right? It's more waiting for that time. If it happens, right? It may not even happen. It may not hit $1.50 anymore. Hopefully it does. Hopefully it goes lower. Who knows? But at this point, it's now we have price targets, right? We have price ranges where we want to see at, especially now this late in the game. Right? At the beginning of the year, it was kind of harder to tell because it's like, man, alts can go down another 90% and all this can happen and all of this stuff can happen still, right? But the farther along we go, the less likely that is to happen, right? And the higher the possibility goes that it will not happen again, right? So definitely things to look at. A lot of good data when we have these pumps. So whenever we have these pumps or whenever we have a major dump, look at which ones dump the hardest, dump the fastest. These are all data points you want to see, right? Because it's going to either confirm what you've been thinking or it's going to open your eyes to something else, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that every, month when something new comes up and it pumps, oh, I'm going to, dump this coin and go to that coin. Don't go chasing coins either, right? Look at your narrative, look at your belief system, look at your different things. Again, the coins of the bigger coins that I have bigger allocations to, it's coins that I've been bullish on for not just the past 3 months, not the past 6 months. It's well over a year, in some cases 2 years plus. Right? It's just reaffirming the visions I had back then. Everything's kind of coming to fruition now, right? So these are definitely a lot of good data points here, guys. Definitely recommend it for you to go in there, whether it's these coins, the top 50, top 100 alts, or even any of the GPU mineable coins, right? A lot of good data points there as well. There's been a lot of pumps, a lot of dumps, a lot of coins that are going sideways. These are the types of things you want to look at, how they react to the overall market, right? So another coin that I was trying to like lower my position in if we had a big enough pump was Flux, right? I am at a slight profit, but realistically for me to be more convinced to get out all the way, I was looking for more something like this. We're going to 60, 70, 80 cents, something like that. If it would have hit that point, I definitely would have lowered my position, would have taken some profits. But it didn't, right? Unfortunately, it didn't really pump that hard. It did pump up. It did make it up to like 45 cents, I think was the little top, 46 cents. But that's not enough for me to like allocate all the way, right? So I do still feel like it's going to do well, but I would like to lower my position if we had a big enough jump and then I can get into something else, right? But for like a 10% thing where it's not one that I'm fully out of, right? It's one that I still do believe in. But I would like to maybe lower my position just because in comparison to some of the other coins in that field, it's not doing so well, right? The best example is Render, right? Render does one small portion of what Flux is trying to do, yet you can see the huge disparity in the price action, right? And then the fact that this one, it's ranked number 48 already, right? And it's only doing literally one small portion of what Flux does, but it's doing it exceptionally better, right? It's 600% on the 1 year, right? Just to give you that idea versus Flux, it's that down 13% on the 1 year, right? So these are the types of things I look at. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what it does. Will it go up? Yes, everything goes up in the bull market. And I think this pump also confirmed that, right? As you go through, it's harder to find coins that have gone down in value versus up, right? Almost everything has gone up in some capacity. The difference being the coins that go up 10% versus the coins that go up 100, 200%, right? That's what I'm looking for, right? Because in reality, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm, looking at all these things. In reality, guys, if you're in it right now, pretty much whatever you go into, there's a high likelihood you're going to do very well come the bull market, right? I'm more analytical. I look at it more as a game almost, right? I do degen a lot, and it's because I keep this separate from everything else. My crypto setup is different from my personal finances, right? I'm very degen-y in a sense because I'm not really doing any safe plays in crypto. A lot of this is more short-term plays for me, as in like 1 to 2 years, versus like my stocks, my IRAs, my 401ks, all that stuff is long-term. I don't really mess with any of that stuff. That's where bulk of my savings is. But this specifically, it's like a 1.5, 2 year game plan to maximize, right? So like for me personally, kind of a shocker, I hold 0 BTC, right? A 3 to 4x does not entice me at all whatsoever, right? Because again, this is more of a short-term play for me, at least this cycle, right? If this cycle goes well, then like I mentioned before, I'll probably become a BTC maxi like everybody else because it's more of a preservation of wealth and you're increasing, right? But again, I started from 0 with crypto and it's almost 3 years now though, but started from 0. I'm trying to turn it into something, right? So because if you really look at a lot of the content creators and people who've been in the space, that's kind of what happens, right? They make it big that one cycle and they go in and they go and become BTC maxis, right? Because at that point, it's more of a preservation of wealth. They already hit their 10, 100x's, whatever from back in the day. That's what I'm trying to hit right now, right? So that's why my strategy is going to be very different and it's not recommended at all either, right? Like things I'm doing, would not really recommend a whole lot, right? Because again, I'm very more on the degen side. It's very more on the risky side. We'll see how it plays out. But those are the thoughts there. Solana has been one that's been very well, and I have been taking profits on. I have been doing my thing because again, it's one I bought last year when everybody was saying it was going to go to 0. Back when it was at $9-10. And I did take profits on and just reallocated into the ecosystem, right? So this is another thing I will definitely advocate for and definitely say. Get into the ecosystem of the coins that you are in, right? Don't just follow and it's different strategies, right? So some people, they do not give a crap about what that coin does. They see numbers go up. They see charts do well. This is what they're going to go into. I kind of do that as well. But then ecosystems that I actually like and I'm into, and I think I'm going to do well, I'm in that ecosystem as well, right? So like that's why I was so bullish on Sol. That's why when it was at $9-10, it was an instant buy for me because nothing had fundamentally changed from the project itself, right? It was just FUD based. And those are things you want to pay attention to. The reason I'm bringing it up is because those narratives, if it's a coin you're into, that's when you want to hop in, right? When the price goes down 50% because of some FUD that has no relation to the project at all whatsoever, those are good opportunities, right? And that was the opportunity here when it was at that price range, right? And the reason I was so bullish on it is because, again, it's an ecosystem I participate in. And it's when you're in it, it's easy to see narratives that will pump along with it. Not just the coin itself, but that whole ecosystem tends to do well if it's there, right? So like with Solana, they have an amazing ecosystem. A ton of projects are now in Solana and continue to build in Solana. And it's going super well. So like, for example, I saw their big show coming up, conference, and that was kind of the lead into this little run up, and that's why it did so well, right? So when that coming up, I figured it was going to pump a little bit. So I like degens into some Bonk, which is one of their main meme coins. I did also buy some NFTs in their ecosystem with MetaMay. Again, this is another one. During Breakpoint, like a day or two after mint, these things were only like 1 to 1.5 Sol, right? Sol was $20. So if it's 1.5 Sol, it was selling for about $30, right? Currently, just a few weeks later, the floor is now at 6.8 right? So it's gone up 5x from there. And then on top of that, Solana also tripled in price from there, right? So again, from $30, this one is at, let's call it 7 Sol at $60 Sol to $420, right? It's insane. So I paper handed though. I sold them at like 4.5, 5 Sol each. I bought like 4 of them, but that's a nice profit, right? And it's just from being in that ecosystem and following these plays, right? It's different things you can see, but you can only do that if you're in that ecosystem and you see these plays coming up, right? So it's just not necessarily saying to do that with any NFT project. This is only going to be a handful of things a year, right? This is one that had been hyped up, one that I was into. I saw the potential there, right? So it's just one that worked out. But again, it's because I'm in that ecosystem. I participated in that ecosystem and I am there, right? Whether it's the meme coins, whether it's these things, I'm into all of that stuff, right? So again, it's just from being in that ecosystem, right? So now let's get into my miner purchase. So I did finally purchase a freaking miner. I had been I'd been wanting to buy one for the past like 3-4 months. Really hesitant on what to get. Nothing was really exciting me. And the one I ended up purchasing wasn't even really on my radar until maybe like Q1 of next year, in anticipation that maybe a KS3 would be down to like 5 to 8 grand after the difficulty would go up to like 200 petahash or something crazy. But because of Kaspa's insane pump, I ended up selling some Kaspa and buying one of these guys just because the potential was there, right? So running through numbers, running through different things, I do feel fairly confident that I'll be able to remake all the Kaspa I used to purchase this guy, and then hopefully, and then some. Right? So it's not something where I dumped all of my Kaspa to buy one ASIC. Not going to be that silly either, just in case it doesn't work out, because it's also extreme potential that it does not work out. But at this point, I'm so far ahead that I'm okay with taking that risk, because at this point, I did essentially almost need to take profits just because I'm so far ahead. Like, it doesn't make sense for my personal strategy to like be that far ahead. I've been very hesitant because it's one I'm super bullish on. I did not see it going up this high this fast, but to take profits and hopefully to buy in back later at a cheaper price, or just mine it back with this guy, right? So whether it happens or not, if it doesn't, if we don't ever dip from here, it was just up only, I'm cool with that, right? Because at this point I did get a KS3M and I'll be making that money. And if it does dip down to 7 cents, 8 cents, I'll rebuy back at that price point and add on all that Kaspa back and essentially get that miner at half price, right? So that's, to me, it's like I'm put myself in like a win-win, right? So if the price pumps and goes through the moon, then the price of this guy's going to go up. If it tanks down to 5-6 cents, I'm just going to rebuy back in, right? So for me, it made sense, right? Does it make sense in all cases? Absolutely not, right? It just really depends on your personal risk tolerance. Again, I'm so far ahead that I'm okay with taking this risk. Even if it completely flops, I get this thing, it burns up in a week, and I have to send it back and wait to 2 months. I'm okay with that risk just because I have that leeway right now, right? So that was the play there. I was debating on what else to get. Realistic, I was looking at some of the other miners, but nothing was really necessarily exciting, right? Some of them looked appealing, but not necessarily ones that I was like, man, yes, that's a coin I'm into. I definitely want that. I didn't really get that feeling with any of those. So this one was kind of on the back burner, hoping maybe something would come out by then. Maybe we get word of Gold Shell's supposed to release something next month, or maybe we get word on a lithium ASIC or RXD ASIC, something of that sort. But the opportunity was here for this guy, and I took it, right? So we'll see how things go. We'll see how things continue. But that was the purchase there, because again, I did want to buy something, and what kind of sped it up also and confirmed it was I wanted to get something to essentially replace that K7, right? The halving is tomorrow, actually. Luckily, we had this pump, so chances are it might be break even, but at the price point that it had been ranging in, it was going to be at a good loss, right? So it was most likely going to get unplugged. So I did want to get something to replace it just to continue that revenue stream, right? So it just happened to play well that the risk reward was there, the price was there, because again, a lot of these Kaspa ASICs did just double in price just because of this pump, right? So we currently see this is the previous price. The KS ones were $18.99. You can see here now, BT Miners, for example, has it at freaking 4 grand. More than double in the matter of days, right? So for me, the price point, even at this price with the where it was here, the KS3M, it's a good buy, right? So at this point, the risk reward was there. So I went ahead and did it, right? So just keep in mind though that would I recommend getting one now, right? Especially at these inflated prices, the risk level went up. It was already pretty risky, right? At the time when this guy was $1,900, it seemed like a fairly good risk reward was there. Now though, at 4K, it's a lot riskier, right? Because the reason being is because that fiat value went up. Your yield is going to be the same as what it was before, but it's that fiat value. That's why I'm a big proponent of focusing on that yield versus that fiat value. Like, yes, it looks amazing because it has almost tripled in price, but focus on your yield, guys. The yield is what you want to focus on, because just like we ran up this hard, we can dump this hard also, right? So you need to factor that in. So let's talk about now, kind of jumping on. This is another thing I've been getting a lot of why am I taking profits if the goal is to just hodl and continue on from there? So yes, the goal is to hodl. So when I say I'm taking profits with the anticipation of just reinvesting it, right? It's either reinvesting in that same coin, possibly another coin that I think is going to do better, other hardware, just something else, but reallocating it into my little ecosystem that I have with crypto, right? So the example I'll give, right, because a lot of people are saying, oh man, why are you taking profits on your kaspa? It's going to go to 50 cents, and it could, yes, but I have certain price targets, right? So I have not realistic to me at least. Again, none of this is financial advice. I'm a nobody. I don't know crap. This is just my personal goals, what I'm looking at, basing it off of market caps, previous history. I do a lot of detail into it, but these are just my personal numbers, right? So like for me, for example, with kaspa, do I think it's going to 10x from here at this point? I do not. I hope it will, right? But me being very analytical and trying to be more realistic, I don't think so. My personal price target prior to this pump was about 40 cents, right? Maybe 45, maybe 50 cents. At that point, it would put me at 10x from where it was currently, right? And based off the market cap, if it hovers where it's at, that's where I would be at, right? So for me, I don't think it's going to 10x from here. So I would rather take profits and then reallocate that money into another coin that I do think will do a 10 to 15x from where it's currently at, right? Or hang on to that capital, wait for a potential dip, and then go in. Or in this case, reallocated that capital to another miner that'll hopefully actually recoup that same kaspa that was used to purchase it, right? Will it happen? Who knows, right? That is the risk I'm taking in this, that we may never have that dip. This may be the lowest it goes, right? But I'm willing to take that risk just because I don't see as much upside potential. So I'm perfectly fine if this thing never goes any lower, right? I'm perfectly fine with that. Hopefully it does dip. Hopefully it does what a lot of the other coins have done throughout the year. And it does retrace eventually. Will it happen next week, next month, next quarter? Who knows how long it takes, but I'll be ready for it, right? I have price points in mind, even if it's not all the way until next summer, right? Maybe that's when we have the dip. But I do believe we'll have another dip eventually, and that's when I'll rebuy back in, right? And I've done that with other coins. I've done that with Gala was one I did in the beginning of the year, right? And bought a whole bunch back here, back in December around the same time. And then I sold a bunch up here. And then what did I do? Buy it back down here, right? In some cases, like especially coins that I'm bullish on and I'm accumulating, but I feel confident that they're going to go down, I will do it harsher. So like I did it pretty hard with Gala because I was okay with it. If it never came back, I was okay with like that 3 to 4x, right? And just reallocating something else. But unfortunately for me, it did eventually dip and I did eventually go back in. So by doing that, by selling when it's at 6 cents and then rebuying back at 1.5 cents, you can 4x your bag by doing that, right? So I did that here with Gala. I did that with Solana. I did that with Nervos. This is another one that at the beginning of the year went all the way to 0.006. Okay, it's currently at 0.0035, but it did hit a low of 0.0026. Okay, so that at that point, I like doubled what I sold. So I sold X amount and then rebought back double the amount. Okay, so like for me personally, going through the previous cycle, what I did learn and what I did get comfortable with is taking advantage of these huge momentum swings, right? So like I'm not a fan of riding this coin all the way up and being like excited about the price and then doing nothing about it, right? I've learned that if you're patient and you see the potential, it's probably going to go down. Like for me, even if this didn't go down at this price point, it was only going to be a 6 to 7x to previous all-time high. So it's the same thought process there. Even if it doesn't dip anymore, there's other coins that I do see going 10 to 15x, and I'm going to reallocate that money if I don't reallocate it here, if I don't reallocate it into their hardware, right? So that is my mind frame as far as profit taking. I know that's one I get a lot of questions on. They're like, it makes no sense, just hold. Yes, I'm holding, but I mean, I like to take advantage of this volatility, right? Especially when I can double or triple my entire position, right? A lot of my gains have been just from doing that. I've literally double, tripled my bags from doing that, right? Like even just right now with all this Solana stuff. Yes, I took profits. I took profits that told, I think a total of like 25, 30 SOL throughout this time because I took profits at 40 bucks, 45 bucks, 53 bucks, etc., etc. Put it back into some of these other degen plays, and then I'm going right back in, right? Like even if I wanted to right now, I freaking like triple that amount, right? I can just rebuy it all back, and instead of having 100 SOL, be at 130 SOL right now. But then if the price dips back to 20, 30 bucks, now I just even doubled that amount now, right? So by doing these things, by taking advantage of this volatility, I'm increasing my bags fairly significantly, right? Again, I'm not going to do it for like a 10% gain. To me, that's not worth the risk. It's only going to be if I see the opportunity where it's at currently, I only see a 5x potential, I'm definitely going to do it, right? Especially if it looks like it's going to retrace. Am I going to do that a whole lot going forward from here though? Not a whole lot. Reason being is that we're a lot farther into the bear market now. We're borderline towards the end of it, guys. The halving is months away, right? It's about 5 months away now. So I'm not as confident that we're going to have as significant a dump. But like, for example, this pump back in March, I was 100% confident we were going to dump again eventually, right? And it did. A lot of these others as well, right? So but now though, being this late in the game, I'm only going to do it if it makes a lot of sense. So like for me, kaspa's one I just have been needing to take profit on, just I've been so far ahead. So it made sense. The opportunity was there. The timing was there. It just happened to work out, right? So we'll see if it works out in the long term, but that's just my strategy when it comes to profit taking. So again, I am taking profit, but I'm just reallocating to multiply what I have. And that's how I've been able to grow. Not only the amount of hardware, I mean, literally that's how I bought my little FPGA. So like my little mole miner, it was paid for by the $150 investment I made into Radiant. Bought it back in October. Literally, it was $170 something. Turned into the freaking $1,900 to buy that thing. So I took the profits there, bought that guy, and now it's essentially pretty much ROI'd again already, right? Just because of the little bit of timing I had with mining kaspa and all this time with mining Radiant now. So it's just, that's how I'm continuing to grow, right? Kind of taking the same strategies as when I was just GPU mining, where just reallocating whatever I was selling and just trying to grow, whether it's hardware or coins. Right now, lately, it's been just more coins than anything. Just because, to me, a lot of these prices have been too good to pass up on, right? So again, it's not recommended. This is not a recommended strategy. This is not an easy strategy. It's a high-risk strategy because you got to be comfortable with not ever having a dip, but that's a clear reason as to why I do what I do, right? So now let's look at some of the other coins. A lot of these GPU mining coins. Boy, I did that video about stacking these things not that long ago, and it's been stupid, right? So like, Neurai just had a little pump when I had done that other video up to like 0.0005. At the time, I had bought some at 3, and now this thing is pumped to up to 17 right now, right? So in the past 7 days, even just past 4 hours, bro, 42%. 7 days, 100 freaking percent. A lot of these coins are pumping, a lot of these smaller cap coins. So the reason I'm not necessarily taking a lot of profits here is because, again, these smaller cap coins, it is possible that they just go upwards, right? That's kind of what happened. I kind of learned my lesson early on with kaspa. I was like, oh, it just went up 100%. It's going to retrace back in like November, December. I did a video talking about that. And in many cases, it didn't really retrace. Sometimes it did, but not a whole lot. So I was able to buy back in at get 10% more, but it wasn't enough to the point where I was confident, even with all the other stuff going on. So a lot of people are saying that right now, like, oh man, kaspa was doing its own thing, it's separating from the market. If any of you guys were into it back when it first came out, we all knew that from last year, right? So kaspa had been pumping through a time where it should not have been pumping, right? So if we go back all the way to like during the entire time with what was going on with FTX and all that stuff, it was just going through the freaking roof. Like, it is insane. It's so funny how it looks like a small blip here. But like during this time, right at the beginning of all the FTX FUD and everything going on there, it was straight upwards action, right? It is so funny though, looking how small of a blip it looks like in comparison to these huge run-ups now. But it has essentially been doing its own thing from the get-go, right? It's one that I even mentioned it in that video back then, that should be flashing lights that like, hey, everything, literally everything's on dumping, everything's on fire sale, and this thing is pumping, doing its own thing, right? That I even mentioned it in that video. I was like, this should give you huge alert that there's something special here, right? And it's just crazy what it's done, crazy what it continues to do, right? But a lot of these coins, Lithium is another one that just recently started pumping very nicely, right? Currently had this super huge run up to like 40 cents. It did dump down to 33. I don't know if that's an API thing or if that was just on one exchange. But a lot of these coins have been doing well, even ones that are pretty neglected. This is one I just found out about today. This is one that I'm bullish on. I do have my little bag of it, and I was planning to add another little bag prior to this little pump, but I didn't get it, but I did allocate a good amount, so I'm happy with what I got. But even this guy that had been stagnant as hell for the past while, it had been between like 60 to 7 cents for a big chunk of time, right? Pretty much the past 2-3 months. It did pump. It's $1.18 right now, right? So a lot of coins are pumping. And again, these are the types of things you want to see with these pumps. You want to see how these coins are reacting, right? Because if this thing would have been going down or kind of stayed sideways, this one is still super small market cap, so it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But the fact that it did pump like this gives me a lot more confidence, right? It's just like reiterating what I had already believed, right? So again, more good data points there. The last thing I want to touch on is just something I'm personally looking at, and something I'm bullish on is gaming for this next bull run, right? So I've been big into saying adoption. One of the biggest, easiest things is going to be with Web3 gaming, because this go around now, a lot of the games that they were hyping up back then are now going to be releasing now, right? Some of them have already released. They're kind of like in an alpha beta mode. They're testing the economies, but a lot of them look like they're going to do pretty well. And we could see the price action with some of them. We saw like Illuvium, we saw like IMX pumping, we saw a lot of these things. A lot of those things are pumping, right? So a lot of the times though, it's not necessarily the coin you want to be bullish on. Sometimes it's the project itself. It's something in that ecosystem. So like one that has been interesting, I don't know if you guys have been catching Big Time, for example. It's been insane. So not necessarily the coin. I'm not bullish on the coin at all. To me, it's going to dump like crazy. They're doing these huge airdrops for like leaderboard people. But I'm bullish on the little economy that comes with it, right? So they have these little NFTs that you can like craft these things. And what's interesting here is that this is kind of something I had learned from the other one, is that I'm bullish on the projects there where you don't necessarily have to play. Like I'm not really going to be interested in a game where I have to sit there and play to earn, right? This one has mechanisms where you're like crafting things and you're able to do things without you really going in. Like for example, with this one, they have these time wardens is what they call them. They craft these hourglasses, which you need in order to earn the token. But by having one of these NFTs, that's how you create these things. And there's a huge marketplace for them. And this thing at the time, I had bought it, and I had bought it late, right? Some people were able, who got in like even just a week before the beta, they were selling like for like 50, 60 bucks, right? So I got in late at 200 bucks. This thing is now $700, right? So this thing 3x. I did buy one of the bigger ones, and as soon as that one nearly doubled, I sold, took profits there. This one I'm hanging on to just because of the revenue it generates, right? It was a $200 NFT that's bringing in $9 a day, right? It crafts one of these hourglass things every 2 days, and it's going for 18 bucks a day, right? So it's essentially making $9 a day. Every 2 days, I'm able to sell one for 18 bucks, sell it in this huge marketplace, right? It's because it's been going up, it's been doing its thing, and again, it's like a stupid little play that, again, I bought this NFT for 200 bucks, I could sell it right now for $700, right? But the fact that it's generating this revenue, it's already more than paid for itself, right? It's been like 3-4 weeks now. In the little things I've crafted between this one and the other one I sold, I'm at like $800, right? And just little things that I don't have to do anything with. I don't have to play the game. I literally have to go in once every 2 days for 2 minutes. Go in there, click a thing, start craft. That's it. It's insane, right? But this one's a pretty interesting game though. The game itself is actually pretty good. But that's what's kind of interesting to me. There are other games. Like this is another one that to me is probably going to do well. I mean, there's a lot of games, right? It's hard to say which one's going to do well, but to me there's a lot. So I'm keeping my eye on them. I'm not necessarily saying that jump into this one, jump into that one, but keep your eye on the space, right? There's a lot of them that are not these little crappy games that there were last go around, right? With like ASIC and such. A lot of these are becoming full-fledged games. And if you're into any of these, you see potential in any of these, time to get in, right? So again, not saying to jump in, not saying to do this, but at least be interested. Maybe look into them. Maybe look into that platform, right? So like Shrapnel, the one that has me locked, is that it's going to be on AVAX, right? So that was even making me even more bullish on AVAX, right? There's going to be a lot of other games, a lot of other things building, and that's going to lead to other narratives, right? Another one we saw recently is like Alluvium. This was pumping hard because the beta's finally about to come out. Not necessarily super bullish on this one. It kind of is what it is, but it's just narratives that I'm following. Like me personally, the one I'm into is like Gala, for example. Just because I already made so much like that one, as soon as it's hype, it freaking goes through the roof. So that's one I do see doing well. And it's because it's an entire ecosystem of games. It's not all just harped on one solo game. So to me, that's what I'm kind of not into like some of these others, like Alluvium, even the Shrapnel one, just because it's one game, right? If they're able to create an ecosystem where you have a lot of games, like the way Gala's doing it, it's one that can do well because it just works well on hype, right? So with these plays, it's not about tokenomics, it's not about fundamentals. The tokenomics are horrible on Gala, right? They're trying to improve them. They've been doing things to improve them. But even with those horrible tokenomics, it's still pumped like crazy last bull market, right? So just that's why things like even like SHIB or any of these others, the hype is what brings these things up, right? And I think the hype will definitely be there come this next bull market, right? Another one is like Star Atlas. And if you haven't looked into it, this one's on Solana. Again, this is another one they were building last bull market. And it's going to start coming out this coming year, right? So the types of things I'm looking at. I'm not necessarily jump into them or do anything about them, but just again, I'm a big advocate. Find your niche, find the things you're into, find the things that you think have promise. Look into them. That doesn't have to maybe invest into them, but maybe invest in that platform, right? So this is making me more bullish on Solana because it's going to run on Solana, right? That's one of the big reasons I've been so big on Solana from the get-go. So many things are running on it. So many things are continuing to be built on it, right? Helium going on it. Render going on it, like for you guys who like the Hive mappers on it, like there's a lot of these games on it, a lot of DeFi on it, a lot of NFTs on it, a lot of things building on that layer one, right? Not these layer twos. I know a lot of people are like big, oh, like all these things need layer twos. I've been hearing people talk about being bullish on like kaspa layer twos and that they need layer twos. That would kind of almost make me less bullish on it. That's part of the reason I'm so bullish on Solana, because it's doing all of this on layer one. It has the speed and scalability on that base layer, right? So if anything, I'd be a little bit less bullish if kaspa had to go that route, because that's the big appeal, right? Having these fast transactions, these fast blocks per second, is to be able to do it all on that layer one, right? So we'll see how things play out. These things are what I'm keeping my eye on. Am I necessarily saying buy these things? No, right? But I'm just looking at these trends, trying to like gather different data points and see what I'm bullish on, right? So right now, the overall theme currently with this pump, am I buying anything? Hell to the no. If anything, if I think it's going to stay like this, then that's going to make hardware more appealing right now, right? But when the prices were where they were at just a few weeks ago, to me, it was more appealing to buy the coins, right? So it just depends on kind of where we go. We'll see how this pump goes. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way into until the Bitcoin ETF goes through. If it goes through, right, it's not a lock, but a lot of people are betting pretty big that it is going to go into effect sometime in January when that last appeal is. We'll see how that pans out, but I'll be waiting for dips, right? At these price points, I'm not a buyer. I'll be looking for hardware, though, right? I did buy that ASIC, but I'll be still looking for cheaper GPUs, maybe other ASICs, maybe the less popular ones. I'll still keep my eyes open, see if we see any deals, right? But in reality, I don't really anticipate any. just because of this crazy pump we're having, right? So overall, we'll see how the market goes. I'll do another update for my overall goals for 2024, probably right before end of year. Hopefully I'll have some different insight and different things I'll be looking at, right? So that was a super long one, guys, but just kind of giving you different thoughts, different things to look at. These videos don't tend to do too well. Again, this is more for me, just so I can reflect back and see what I was looking at that time, but it does give some good insight, guys. A lot of this stuff is just accumulating, whether it's through buying or through mining, right? So even though I am mainly particularly talking about buying the coins, a lot of this does pertain to mining as well, right? A lot of these strategies are what I do deploy for when I'm deciding what to mine, right? Because a lot of GPU mining right now, yes, it's been hot, yes, it's been good, but it's been highly speculative, right? It's been good for some, but not for all, right? If you pick the wrong coin to mine, not doing so well. But you picked one that ran up 5-6x, you're doing amazing, right? So again, a lot of these things, the things you want to look at, even as just as a GPU miner, right? To me, honestly, especially as a GPU miner, right? You want to pick what you think is going to do well. That's the bag you want to stack, right? So let me know, guys. Let me know in the comments. What are you guys doing? Are you guys kind of staying hands off with this pump? Or you think this is the low? You think we're going to go to 50 cents with kaspa next week? And you're buying here? Let me know what you're doing, right? Let me know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Again, thank you for watching, guys, and I am out.